Jon Snow has phallic issues due to the excessive amounts of castration anxiety he felt due to being an illegitimate child. He failed to resolve his Oedipus complex and identify with his father, leading to an underdeveloped superego, and this led to a near total lack of aggressiveness. He has identified instead with his effeminate and supportive mother, and he was ultimately stabbed by others who had developed properly in their phallic stage. Had he only proffered the threat of his masculine aggression and engaged in proper gender roles instead of using empathy like a woman, he would not have died in such a gruesome manner. The Mountain's mentality is characterized by a rampant Oedipus complex. He remains uncorrected by a male authority figure, which would result in the logical conclusion of the Oedipus complex, in which the male feels a castration anxiety and learns to identify with the male authority figures. Due to the lack of correction, the Mountain has learned to revile and disrespect all men who would stand in his way, and this violent nature and resentfulness has turned to violence towards nearly all others. The one person that he will respect and even worship is a female authority figure. Other than that, he remains ruthlessly violent. The Red Woman has an out-of-control superego and psychosis stemming from penis envy, because she has an unchecked Electra complex, stemming from her lack of a wish for a child and the rejection of the female identity. She is also very demonstrative, and shows many signs of being anally explosive. Ramsay Bolton's violent nature, similar to the Mountain, is resulting from confusion during his phallic stage. However, this is due to the lack of a mother figure, combined with his adoration for his father. It has affected his superego and caused him a almost total lack of empathy. However, being a bastard child has also confused his sense of castration anxiety. This causes him to have an inability to resolve his Oedipus complex, and it expresses itself in the total lack of ability to identify with authority figures. He is also anal retentive, and this is due to his father's strict nature, and expresses itself in his defensiveness, his possessiveness, his tight-fistedness, and his tidiness and respectfulness of authority. Viserys has a violent tendency to a failure to respect and identify with male authority figures. This is due to the lack of one during his youth, and has led to lack of respect for men, and eventually violent tendencies toward everyone, very similarly to Ramsay Bolton or the Mountain. Daenerys Targaryen has many problems due to the lack of a mother or a father during her important developmental stages. She has penis envy like the Red Woman, and has not substituted the wish for a penis for the wish for a baby. She has no one to blame for her castrated state, like her mother if she had one, and is angry at the way she has been treated, and rightfully so. She seeks a father figure, and surrounds herself with father figures that are substitute, and seeks the authority of male father figures in order to replace the father that she never knew. Due to the strict upbringing by his father, Theon Greyjoy has excessive castration anxiety and the inability to identify with male authority figures. This has caused him to revile of male authority and has ultimately led to unchecked aggression. Furthered by much confusion in his genital stage when he lived in Winterfell and was feeling like an outsider. This feeling of outsiderness has resulted in an overcompensation in the genital stage, where he seeked as much pleasure as he could find. This finally led to rampant unchecked aggression when the pleasure did not fulfill his increasing desires, fabricated by an underdeveloped and failed superego. This explains why the loss of his penis completely crashed his identity, as it crashed both his ego and his superego. Sansa Stark is a shining example of a completely healthy young woman. She has seen her Electra complex and the resulting penis envy to its logical conclusion, and now identifies with her mother and other female authority figures. Considering the severe amount of trauma that she has faced, she has reacted remarkably well. Arya Stark has all the hallmarks of an individual who is anally expulsive. She wants to show off, she has emotional outbursts, she is rebellious, has a general carelessness about her, she is self-confident, occasionally generous, and occasionally cruel. She is the result of a severe case of penis envy. She is unable to resolve her Electra complex to its logical conclusion that she wants to have a child. Her lack of childbearing desires has resulted in her inability to identify with female authority figures. She is unable to assume the standard feminine gender role to the point where she has rejected the female role entirely and has assumed a masculine one. Peter Baelish is a prime example of an extremely anal-retentive personality. He is extremely possessive and punctual. He respects authority and is very clean and obsessive. His lack of a mother figure and father figure during his developmental phases has resulted in extreme ambition and a failure to identify with his fellow man. This has resulted in a lack of empathy and severe selfishness. Tyrion Lannister is anal expulsive due to benign neglect. His confusion during his phallic stage, due to the lack of a mother and conflicts with his father, has led him to fail to fully identify with, respect, and copy his father. This has led to his pursuit of excess and pleasure in his genital stage. Eddard Stark is a generally healthy and well-rounded individual. He is possibly exhibiting minor anal-retentive tendencies and may potentially suffer from stress disorder if he continues to overwork himself. Brandon Stark is anal expulsive. He is prone to emotional outbursts, self-confidence, generosity, rebelliousness, and general carelessness. He wants to share things and has a possible Oedipus complex. His psychosis is due to his superego running amok after the shock of losing his limbs, and the resulting disability has caused his superego to compensate by comforting him with the perception and deception that he has extra senses, giving him a feeling of usefulness and grandeur. King Joffrey is a prime example of an anal expulsive individual who has a penchant for cruelty, emotional outbursts, excessive self-confidence, rebelliousness, and a general carelessness. His Oedipus complex is fueled by his lack of a present father figure who remains unresolved, and he fails to identify with other male authority figures, and now reviles them actively and seeks to destroy them. This has spread to a general violence towards all others, and it will remain until corrected properly by a male authority figure, and until he can feel proper castration anxiety. Hodor is without a doubt the most incredible specimen I have ever encountered in all my years of work. He has deficiencies in every single stage of development. He has a communication deficiency that clearly started in his oral phase. He has aggression deficiencies and defensiveness that show deep-rooted anal retentive tendencies. And his lack of aggression is also the result of the opposite extreme that can be reached without the lack of a proper father figure. Left unchecked, the Oedipus complex, plus the lack of social desires and sexual desires, had led to issues in his ego and superego, to the point where he only says Hodor. Hodor. Hodor is clearly a true expression of his ego and superego in perfect harmony. He is completely and totally expressing himself based on the tone and the context. Somehow he manages to express entire conversations into single words, things that people would have trouble expressing with entire paragraphs. Those around him understand him completely and trust him totally, achievements that are seldom achieved by the more intelligent or complexly thinking individuals. He is a true paragon of self-awareness and self-expression, and while he lacks any aggressive traits that make him a true man, his extreme peaceful nature has allowed him to develop extraordinary empathy and communication skills. Actually, the fans of Game of Thrones seem to think that he's the trapped spirit of a horse, and that the horse may have been named Hodor. Well, then Hodor could in fact just mean Hodor, and it could be the name of a horse. In any case, I prescribe to all of these troubled individuals a wonder drug that can cure all of these ailments, known as cocaine.